Today on Performance TV, we leave the studio and head to North Carolina for a visit to Steele Rubber Products. We'll see some new products for your trailer and RV and show you how to keep those drafts and rain out of your life on the road.
Welcome to Performance TV. I'm in North Carolina doing a little bit of business, and I thought I'd stop by Steele Rubber and pick up some parts I need for a project I'm working on. That got me thinking, I wonder how they make all these parts for these really old vehicles. Why don't we go inside and take a look? I'm here with Danny Agosta, who's going to tell us how Steele Rubber does their magic. Danny, if I have a really unique car and there's no parts available on the market, how can you help me replace the rubber?
We actually make all of our parts from originals, so customers come to us all the time asking if we can make something that they're not able to get. They'll send us in an original, and it's generally in worse shape than this. We can actually take a look at this and make a process to put it into a new piece. So what we do is we look at the original, and then we get to our computer-aided design programs, and we start making basically a negative of that piece so it can be molded into rubber.
Okay. And you have a number of items here on the table. What are we looking at?
We're looking at the molds that we make after we have all the programming done. We have the inserts that this came out of an original, and then this is what we're putting back into it.
So you're actually improving upon the original by going to brass instead of plastic?
That's right. For everything that you see here, a program has to be made. It has to be made to design it, has to be made to cut it, it has to be made to make the pieces of metal. And to do all that, we utilize all kinds of technology, from the computer-aided design to 3D printing to make sure our mock-ups are right.
Okay, and you've got some examples of some 3D printing here, don't you?
Yes, so this would be an example of a molded section from the 3D printing. You can see the real similarity to that corner. And then here we have examples of our extrusion dies. They're 3D printed, so we make sure that the piece that we're making is just like the original.
So it must be very difficult to get the original piece into the computer. Do you eyeball that? Do you scan it? How does it work? And also, it's missing parts.
We use laser scanners, we can use original drawings, and then there's a lot of intuition about, you know, these parts and how they're compressed and what damage they might take, and we're able to reverse that.
So Danny, what's the next step in the process?
The next step is to take the CAD design and the cutting program and take it to the CNC machine.
Well, we're out here in the tooling area of Steele Rubber. Danny, what are we looking at?
This is the CNC machine. Normally the doors are closed, but we got them open so you can take a look. This is what actually takes that CAD design that we came up with and starts cutting out a mold.
Okay, and how long does it take to cut a mold typically?
It depends, but if you look at some of the molds like these, the real large ones for the door weather strip that we're showing, I mean, you're talking about 24 hours per half. So that total end there is 48 hours. And then you got driver and passenger side and front and rear.
Wow, that's a lot of work. So I understand there are molded parts, but there's also extruded parts in a weather stripping.
That's right, we'll take a look at that next.
Well, we're in the extruding area now. Danny, there's a lot of heat coming from this piece of equipment behind you.
Yes, this is our sponge extrusion machine. The basic process is taking raw rubber and changing it into the shape that we want it to be for our weather strip. To do this with the sponge, once it comes out through the die and the actual shape, it has to be submerged into the salt bath. That's actually liquid salt. That's almost 400 degrees.
Wow, and salt can get pretty hot too, can it?
Yeah, salt can get crazy hot as a liquid state. And the reason we want to do that, I mean, you can't get water that hot, so you have to submerge it into the salt for the piece to cure and to activate all the components that make it sponge rubber.
Now it looks as we're going down this line that there are different areas where it submerges. What's that about?
Right, so depending on how much we want the piece to, what they call blow, how much you want it to gain that air inside of it, depends on how much you submerge it into the salt. So at certain points we'll have it float across, and then we have rollers that'll dip it in. And that process gets monitored very closely to make sure we're making a piece that's the right size and right durometer, or the squishiness of the piece.
All right, how do you get the extruded part and the molded part together?
Let's take a look.
So Danny, what are these machines behind us?
These machines are our sponge molding machines. What they essentially are are presses that are heated so we can heat the molds to make everything cure. So what we'll do is we'll take those molds that we had earlier, and we showed you how to make the extrusion, and we'll place the extrusion in here. And they're pre-cut lengths to exactly like the originals were. We have an exact amount of rubber that we put inside it, weighed out in grams, depending on the piece, and we'll place that on top of the mold. And on top of the mold, there's these holes. The press will actually come down and press the raw rubber into those holes and fill this void here.
Now, does the rubber have to be heated first?
The rubber doesn't necessarily have to be heated so much, but the mold and the actual press that it's sitting on do.
Hence the aluminum molds, because it transfers heat really quickly.
That's right. You know, the same way we use the salt bath to wrap all the way around a piece of rubber, this aluminum wraps all the way around the piece of rubber.
Okay. Now, how is this going to actually attach to the vehicle?
This will attach with clips. This is actually for like a 77 Monte Carlo. Okay. So this will attach with clips, and we have a special board that we go through that's specifically marked for that car, and we'll drill holes and place those clips individually.
So you drill the holes in the extruded part, you put the clips in it, and then the piece is finished?
And then the piece is finished. If it needs any trimming, we'll give it a final trim, but then you end up with a piece like this.
This is the original, right?
That's the original. So if you compare the two, you can see it's designed just to be like that. Fit the same way, perform the same way.
And I can see how your computer-assisted design guys had to fill out where this should have been and kind of imagine what the piece would have looked like when it was new.
It takes years of experience.
Well, we actually happen to have a 1977 Monte Carlo with horrible weather stripping on the doors. We're going to go ahead and replace that when Performance TV comes back from Steele Rubber right after these messages. Welcome back to Performance TV, coming to you from Steele Rubber in North Carolina. So we've shown you how this complicated weather stripping is made. Now we're going to put it on our 1977 Monte Carlo. Danny, what's our first step?
Our first step is to remove the door panel. We've already removed the screws around the perimeter of the panel, and the last thing here is to remove the window regulator. We got this nifty little tool. It just removes the clip out from right behind it. So it just slides right behind.
Geez, I've always had to use a hook. That's much easier.
You can use a hook, but that, like you said, that tool just makes it a ton easier. All right, so we went ahead and removed all the screws, so the panel will actually lift up.
Lift right off there.
That part comes off.
So Danny, I understand this car is raced.
Yeah, this car is raced, and when they go out to the drag strip, you never know when a rainstorm is going to pop out. They're out there all weekend, so they want to make sure that their weather stripping is going to keep their car dry.
Okay, now I understand this is his wife's car too. Smart man racing his wife's car.
Yeah. So to actually remove the weather stripping, there's just a few clips that we have to remove. And this one's actually been screwed in. This weather stripping's actually been replaced before, but you can see even over time, it's really started to deteriorate and dry rot and split in all the wrong places. There's actually a tool that we use to remove this too. It just gets right underneath the weather stripping and pops the clip right out.
And now, not all weather stripping is created equal. Is that true?
That is true. The weather stripping that we use, the rubber compounds, are very resistant to UV damage and ozone. It will really last a long time.
And now this is closed cell technology, is that true?
That's right. The rubber that we use is closed cell, so if for some reason it were to split or anything like that, it wouldn't absorb water.
That's something that's important.
Absolutely.
Especially in these older vehicles, you don't want any water getting anywhere if you can avoid it. Well, this is a fairly straightforward process.
Yeah, so this weather stripping is held in, like I said, with mostly clips. The person who reinstalled this one has used a little bit of glue, so we'll have to come back and clean some of that glue off before we put on the new weather stripping.
And now your weather stripping that we're going to be putting on has the clips already built into it, so no glue would be necessary.
That's right. Some people like to use a little bit of glue to make sure it's held down. It wasn't originally. Okay. You don't have to use it.
So get a quality weather stripping and it's good to go.
Absolutely. Now see, this stuff is dry rotted so much that the clips are just coming straight through the rubber, but we can go back and get all that stuff as we get it off.
Okay. And this is something really that anybody could do in their driveway.
That's right. You don't need any special tools for it. You know, we're using a couple to make the job real easy, but you don't have to have a fancy garage to get this stuff done.
So a flat tip screwdriver and a hook, a pick with a hook end would really do it for you, and of course a Phillips screwdriver.
Yes, and if you are going to use a flathead to get some of the stuff off, you want to make sure maybe you put some masking tape or something on it, something so you don't mar the paint.
Okay. So pretty much standard common sense stuff. Now, what do you recommend to use to clean all the old rubber and glue off?
We use a Weatherstrip remover. It's made specifically for it, and it just really breaks down that adhesive, doesn't mess with your clear coat. It's really easy and nice to use.
Well, we've got the old weather stripping off. We've removed the old clips, and Danny's got the door all cleaned up. So we're going to put the new piece on. Danny, how do we start?
We start with attaching one of the molded ends. This attaches with a screw and 2 black clips that also come in the package. And then you just work your way around, putting the white clips into the hole that they line up with. They should line up with them absolutely perfect. Like we said, you know, we design it from an original, so we measure out all the spacing of the clips and make it real easy to install.
Well, you don't look like you're pushing very hard. Those clip in fairly easily.
Yeah, you want to line them up and make sure you're good and solid on the alignment before you push on them, and they'll pop in fairly easy.
So you just work your way around the bottom of the door.
If you have any kind of trouble pushing them in, you can use a wood wedge. That's what I like to use. If you start to use a screwdriver or anything, you might poke straight through the rubber.
And damage the rubber, yeah, of course. Okay, so I can see that it's going in fairly easily. Just keep working your way right around.
Yeah, and as you can see, I'm having a little problem with one of these clips. So something else you can use is the handle.
Oh, the handle of a driver?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to finish installing this weather strip. You can see right behind me we've got a trailer. We're going to be working on that next, right after these messages. Welcome back to Performance TV. Boy, the doors on our 77 Monte Carlo really came out nice. Now for that car, Steele Rubber was able to provide us a custom catalog, and only the pieces for that car were in the catalog. As promised, we're going to start working on the trailer now. Take a look at this old crappy weather stripping that came off of here. Danny, this would be in your general purpose catalog, right?
Yes, we have a general purpose catalog, and it has all of our different weather strip extrusions. So whenever you're doing a project that isn't make, model, style, something like a trailer or an RV, something like that, it can all be found in there.
Okay, so we've already pulled this one side off, and that came off really nice. Let's go ahead and pull the rest off so we can start doing the install.
So this is put on with a 2-sided tape, and it comes off fairly easy, but you can tell how cracked it is. What you just want to do is make sure you're getting behind the tape and not just pulling the rubber off of the tape.
Yeah, if you leave the tape on the frame, that's going to be a bit of a challenge to remove, I would expect.
Yeah, I like to tell people to pull out rather than down, and that'll help the process a little bit.
Okay, and now this is actually closed cell foam, which means it's not going to absorb water. What we're pulling off is open cell foam, which would get really wet in the rain. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can tell it's open, it's dry rotted and stuff in there. The open cell's really going to let that happen easier.
Okay, so this is actually quite an upgrade we're giving the trailer here.
That's right. And they use this trailer to haul cars. You know, they'll hang out in it in the summer months to get some shade. So they actually even have an air conditioner in here, so you really want to make sure it's nice and sealed.
Yeah, we don't want any water coming in during a rainstorm.
As I'm taking the tape off, some of the tape came off of the weather strip, so we use a little plastic scraper tool to try to get behind there and get the rest off, because you want a nice clean surface whenever you're putting on the next weather strip.
Now, before you put the new weather strip on, you're going to run some alcohol wipe down there just to make sure you have all the last of the adhesive off?
That's right. It'll get all the rest of the gunk off, any dust, and give it a nice smooth surface to adhere to.
So that'll give us a nice clean seal so the rubber won't come off.
The adhesive that we use on our Weatherstrip is a 3M heat applied tape. So it's not two-sided tape like we have here. It's actually part of the weather stripping.
So it's an integral component. That means it won't come off.
That's right.
Okay, now do you typically cut the new weather strip to size before you put it on?
You can. It's good to cut it just a little bit long so you can trim later. This weather strip was actually put on top and sides, so you have these gaps that let air and water through. We're actually going to cut it at a 45, so it's one complete seal.
I had noticed that when you pulled the old stuff off. So Danny, that's quite a roll. Does this come in different lengths?
Yeah, it does come in different lengths, pre-cut, and our universal catalog tells you all the different lengths that the pieces come in.
Okay.
And as you can see, I'm cutting this at a 45-degree angle, or roughly. The thing about rubber, it's a little forgiving.
Yes, that's nice.
So we'll just start to peel off the back. And stick it on.
Well, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and as long as you have a nice clean surface, this will stick very nicely.
Okay, well this is a pretty straightforward process. We're just going to repeat it on the other three sides of the door. We've got a slightly different project using a slightly different profile of rubber on the back of the trailer, and we'll be doing that next. Well, here we are at the back of the trailer. It's going to be pretty similar to what we did up front, but I noticed you chose a different type of rubber for this. Can you tell me a little bit about why?
Yeah, so you're going to want to choose the rubber that fits your application. So this is what we took off of that side door, and this is the rubber that we replaced it with. Very similar size and compression on it. So this is a piece that we took off of the back here. Number one, you can see how bad it is. You can see there's a lot more compression going on that piece. So I go with this, and it's because this has a lot of squish to it. It has the seal that it needs, that depth, but it can also compress real easy.
It can compress down. Okay, so this installation is going to be basically like the one up front. We're going to take it off, clean it up really good, cut our pieces a little bit long, put them on. Is there anything special I need to be aware of?
Basically, the process is the exact same. The important part's cleaning everything, and then the biggest portion is making sure you get the right rubber. You know, we have lots of different sample packs that we can give to you as a customer. So if you call us up and say, hey, I'm working on the gate on my trailer or the door on my trailer, we can send you the appropriate sample pack.
Okay. Well, you know, we're going to go from here to the vehicle that tows this, the Winnebago. We'll be right back after these messages.
Performance TV is being brought to you by Gen Y Hitch, towing made easy. BASF, we create chemistry. Borla, the world's most winning exhaust. And by Dustless Blasting, it's the future of surface preparation.
Welcome back to Performance TV. We finished with the tow trailer. That's going to be nice and tight and eliminate all drafts and keep the cool air in and the rain out. Now, we're going to look at this RV. I noticed this is a little bit different type of molding than we used before.
Yeah, this is going to be a push-on style molding rather than the adhesive or the clips. You can see how deteriorated this is here. So we're going to go ahead and replace this seal. This has actually two seals, but they're the same type, so it's going to be the same process. To get this off, we took the little check strap off of the door, let it open up a little bit, and we went ahead and took the screws out of the seal plate. So we'll just take that out, and then the push-on seal goes on just the way it comes off. You can actually just grab it and it'll come off of the trim. It has these little rubber teeth on the inside to hold it on, but other than that, it just comes right off.
So there's not the cleanup here on this that we had on the other two projects.
That's correct. It comes off easy, comes off clean, and it goes on just the same way.
Do you have a little piece? Can you show me a profile of that so I know what I'm looking at?
So this is what we're replacing it with. You can see how it has those rubber teeth to hold on to the seal, and it's got a metal spine along it to keep everything rigid. And like I said, real easy to put on.
So RVs are notorious for leaks and drafts and that kind of thing. Do you have a special catalog for RVs?
We do have a catalog that's RV specific. You can see, you know, we got it listed out by the category of part it might fit. We have a category for those big slide outs on some of the RVs, glass seals, and this is the rubber that we're actually replacing it with today.
So you have just about everything this RV would need.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what do we do to put the new piece on?
To put the new piece on, we're going to start up in the top corner.
At the only break in the seal.
That's right. So this is the only 90-degree angle in the entire seal. So we'll start there and just press it on. If you have any trouble, you can go back and tap it in with a rubber mallet, or, you know, if you have to cut it, the way to cut it is to get a little pair of snips, cut one side of the metal spine, and then trace it around. You don't want to try to cleave it all in one piece or you'll smash that spine.
Okay, so take your time, snip half and half.
That's right.
Okay, well this is coming along pretty quickly here. And now this is a double seal. I see there's another seal on the inside of the door here.
Yeah, so it's going to be a repeat of the same process. You can see on this one how there's a couple gaps that are cut out.
Yes.
So that's where we'll use that technique on those. Just replace it exactly how it was.
Okay, well that's about all the time we have today on Performance TV. If you know of a product or a service that you think our viewers would be interested in seeing, please contact Jeff at masterstv.com. Be sure to come back next week for more Performance TV.